Being totally honest, I've always thought the pyramids were built by aliens. Yes, I may be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but that's just my opinion. So today we're going to try and understand actually how the pyramids were built, see if we can come to a different conclusion to the one we've already got.
This is the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Giza.
For over 4,600 years, it has endured in the Egyptian desert. For most of human civilization, it was the tallest building in the world.
Don't you think it would have been mad to have just saw the pyramid when it was actually at this level, where it just had the gold tip, it was all nice and freshly built, just in the middle of the desert, just in the middle of nowhere?
It was built to last for eternity because it was meant to house a god. It has survived earthquakes, erosions, and wars, countless plunderers, British explorers blasting their way in with dynamite, even Mr. Beast.
Someone 4,500 years ago put this rock right here.
The 2.3 million stone blocks, some with a mass of up to 50 metric tons, make it one of the heaviest human-made objects of all time. It's also built with incredible precision. Its base is roughly the size of 7 New York City blocks, and almost perfectly level, never deviating more than an inch.
Perfectly level, back in a time where they wouldn't have had your standard, put a level on a block kind of thing, make sure it's level. This was a time where they was just building in the middle of the desert and just going, yeah, let's hope for the best. You're telling me that this was humans? I don't know, maybe I'm talking too much, we'll see what he's saying.
4 sides are aligned to the cardinal directions with near perfect accuracy, thousands of years before the compass was even invented. To this day, no one has found out how exactly it was built. To really understand the Great Pyramid, we modeled the whole thing, and we will tackle 3 fascinating theories of its construction. This is the insane engineering of the pyramids.
Don't see how, the bottom part's going to be easy, but the second you start getting to kind of a certain level and you're getting those blocks up there, but surely they'd have had to have thousands and thousands and thousands of people / slaves just pushing them up there. I don't see how you'd fit that many people around a rock. I don't know.
This is Khufu, a pharaoh of ancient Egypt. He's king of the wealthiest nation on the planet, and he's a god. He's going to live forever, and he needs somewhere to live out his immortality, a home that will last. It will need to be incredibly secure to house all of his riches, and it should also look amazing. His father Sneferu, also a god.
I'm sorry, Sneferu is his name? This is what I don't understand as well. There was at a time where they were so advanced apparently, and they was calling their kids Sneferu.
Is buried here. He's the pharaoh who taught Egypt how to build its pyramids.
Bent pyramid.
But the lines on his aren't quite perfect. Something went wrong. Khufu can do better. He can bring even more glory to Egypt. The nation is still mourning Sneferu's death. Khufu wants to lift the people up by drawing them into the most incredible project humanity has ever attempted. And then surely they'll love him, and later remember him. More than his dad.
Yeah, I know what we're going to do, everyone. I know we're all sad that my father's died and everything. And, you lot probably may resent me because I'm a king / a god. And, you might think that I've got more than you. But what we're going to do is we're going to build me, to bring everyone together, we're going to build me a big fuck off pyramid. And you lot are all going to build it. Some of you might die. But at the end of the day, it's for the greater good. Me.
A project as grand and ambitious as the Great Pyramid can only be pulled off by a very wealthy and very organized nation. The nation of Egypt is just that, thanks in large part to the Nile. Every year, the Nile overflows and fertilizes the land with rich topsoil. This gives ancient Egypt the ability to grow excess crops to keep its production well fed, and to sustain a standing army. The army regularly goes out and terrorizes Egypt's neighbors, plundering their wealth to bring home for the pharaoh. So Khufu has all the money he needs to build something very, very extra. But money isn't everything. Khufu also needs the smartest architect to design a building that will set him up for eternity. There's only one man for the job, Khufu's half-brother, Hemiunu. He was born for the role, a once-in-a-generation genius. The design for his pyramid won't just follow in his father's, it will surpass it in every way. He envisions a pyramid far grander, more complex, and more secure than anything built before. a true quantum leap in architectural mastery. Hemiunu plans to build a pyramid primarily out of solid stone. Inside will be 3 burial chambers, with a passageway leading to each. The first
It seems like a lot of space to be using up on the land for kind of 3 burial tombs, doesn't it really?
is built underground, in case Khufu dies early into the pyramid's construction. The second will be hidden behind a false wall, so nobody can plunder the riches inside. Leading up to the third and highest burial chamber is a majestic corridor with stunningly high corbelled ceilings, the Grand Gallery. The King's Chamber will be breathtaking, a chance for Hemiunu to flex. It'll be huge for ancient Egyptian standards. It will be built entirely from pink granite monoliths, quarried far away from Aswan, fitted together so precisely that you couldn't slip a razor blade in between them.
I don't see how in that day and age, how are you going to be able to cut the stone so it's that much to the millimetre that you couldn't even get a razor blade in there? Because to me, in my head, straight away, I just start thinking, well, that's an alien laser, let's cut that then. Bearing in mind, this would have been the times where they'd have just hammered and chiselled everything. You know, they haven't got any kind of cutting edge technology to cut it up. How are they doing it?
Inside a granite sarcophagus, Khufu will finally be laid to rest. Once complete from the inside, the pyramid will be encased in perfectly smooth white limestone. It will dazzle in the sunlight and gleam in the moonlight. Finally, a golden capstone, the Pyramidion.
So is that, I'm guessing that is why the pyramids are no longer white. Because doesn't limestone kind of corrode, whatever the word is. And obviously after kind of rainfall and how many years of it being there, it would have just gone to the kind of brown rubble look that it looks now. I might be wrong though.
Will be placed on top. Once all is put in place, Khufu will be ready for eternity. Hemiunu doesn't have time to waste. The pyramid should be built as quickly as possible so that at least one of the burial chambers is ready before Khufu's mortal self dies. Hemiunu is aiming for a timeline of 20 years for the whole project.
20 years?
He calculates that the Great Pyramid will require up to 25,000 builders, a significant portion of ancient Egypt's population.
25,000 builders. Bearing in mind, at this point in time, there wouldn't have been that many people around. You know what I mean? Like, the world's quite heavily populated now. Whereas, in those days, 25,000 people, that was probably not the whole of Egypt, but that was a large majority of Egypt. So he was basically just saying, yeah, you lot build that shit for me. You lot go build that. I'm gonna go chill in my castle. Let me know when it's done.
Of about 1 million. So a great recruitment drive
Okay, so he just said they have a population of 1 million. Okay, fair enough. Maybe I'm stupid.
begins. But how exactly did they do it? Well, nobody knows. The debate's been raging for hundreds of years, and researchers are constantly uncovering new archaeological evidence and bizarre engineering quirks that give birth to new theories. Sometimes with cutting-edge tech, sometimes by sheer dumb luck. There are theories supported by scientific research, which we will cover, and there's tons of dubious theories that rely on wild speculation, which we'll ignore. We've broken down 3 scientific theories.
I'm one of those wild speculators, unfortunately. He's atting me there.
About what the Egyptian secret could be, in order of easy, medium, and hard. Imagine you and some coworkers have to hoist a block as heavy as a double-decker bus, 130 meters into the air. The only tools your boss gives you are some rope, some wood, and some rubble. If you've got
I'd say, yeah, boss, I fucking quit.
something heavy, you've got to move somewhere high. The simplest, most straightforward way is to just drag it up a ramp. You tie it with some rope, get help from as many people as can fit on the ramp, and heave it up together.
Pulling a double-decker bus up 130 feet in the air on some logs and some rope. How strong's your rope? How many pieces of logs you got? And also, if this was the case, surely there would be some leftovers of the ramp. Like, you would see the marks on the pyramid. You know what I mean? If they've took that ramp up the pyramid, surely you would see the lines of where it was.
As the pyramid grows, the ramp would be raised and extended to accommodate the increasing height. Easy. No crazy advanced machinery necessary. Most Egyptologists have traditionally supported the external ramp theory. It continues to be the go-to explanation for how the builders pulled it off. And there's loads of archaeological evidence that confirms ancient...
For 2.3 million rocks, well, piece of stone, how many people have you got to have each day just taking the rocks up? Because obviously you're going to have people setting them in place, people ordering them where to go and everything, but the people that are actually taking the rocks up, how many people are you using to do that? And off one ramp, surely you're going to hit kind of traffic, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't just take multiple up at once because the group in front of you might slow the groups down. Like, you're going to come across each other on the ramps. Like,
Egyptians use big ramps for construction all the time, but there's no consensus on the size, shape, and incline of such a ramp. That's because after a certain height, the external ramp theory starts to fall apart. To move a 2-ton block up a slope, you need a team of about 12 workers. And as the pyramid starts to grow, your ramp either needs to become steeper or longer to reach the top. You're going to want that incline to be as gentle as possible, otherwise the job is too intense and workers will start dropping like flies. The remains...
Yeah, because genuinely imagine, like I've walked up hills before, you know, like little kind of mountains, stuff like that, nothing crazy. I couldn't imagine me and like 15 friends then trying to pull a bus up with us along that mountain. And the higher that goes to the top of the pyramid, that ramp's gonna start turning out to be like that unless it's like miles and miles and miles away from the pyramid and you can just slowly bring it up.
The workers suggest most were in decent but not spectacular health. These were everyday people, not super elite athletes. Many died before 40 due to the incredibly hard work. Engineers calculate that 8% is the steepest incline for average workers to complete their task. In consequence, the ramp has to become longer. To build a ramp to the full 147-meter height of the pyramid at a gentle enough incline, this ramp would need to be very, very long, like way more than a kilometer. It'd require a few million tons of material.
How many miles in a kilometre? So he says way more than a kilometre, so I think there's like 6 kilometre, 0.6 kilometres in a mile, something like that. So that's actually, I suppose that's actually not too far really. Well, I say it's not too far, but when you're building a fucking ramp, it is. Also, what's this ramp made out of? 'Cause surely that's going to take a lot of time to also build.
It'd require a few million tons of material, up to 3 times as much volume as the entire pyramid.
That's what I'm
Remains
saying.
of such an enormous ramp haven't been found, and it would take thousands of workers decades just to build it. Decades Khufu doesn't have to spare. There is a way to keep the ramp shorter. You could build a corkscrew ramp that spirals around the sides, like a road winding up a mountain. Every time the pyramid grows, the ramp grows with it, and eventually just becomes part of the pyramid itself. That would be a pretty ingenious way to save up on space and material, and it would explain why we haven't found any remains of a ramp. But it comes with a whole new set of problems. The pyramid's triangular faces need to be accurately maintained at precisely 51.9 degrees from the bottom to the top.
That's just crazy. Do you know how hard it is to actually just keep something at a perfect angle? This is in the times they didn't have cutting materials, all that kind of stuff, and they're cutting rock so that it keeps a perfect angle of 51 degrees. And then, on top of that, they're building a ramp that goes around it. So why is there no remains left on the pyramid? How would they have got that down? Because also, if they was going off the pyramid, that would have surely put extra pressure on the pyramid because they're carrying tons and tons of extra rocks up there. I don't know, I've got too many questions with this.
Surveyors need to measure the edges constantly to ensure there's no deviation. If you're off by even a few centimeters at the bottom, the top could be off by several meters. Since the spiral ramp blocks your sight, it's almost impossible to ensure that all the lines of the pyramid are actually straight, which would leave you with a crooked pyramid at the end. And as we know, the Great Pyramid is in fact not crooked. This brings us to theory number 2. It's the late 90s. A French engineer, Henri Audin, is watching a documentary about the pyramids. It explains the pyramid construction with the external ramp theory, but Henri is skeptical. To his engineering mind,
Aren't we all?
it just doesn't make sense. He calls up his architect's son, Jean-Pierre Audin, and asks his opinion. Jean-Pierre is intrigued. Without knowing much about ancient Egypt at all, or even visiting the pyramid, he starts puzzling over other ways the blocks could have been lifted.
Can you actually imagine how many people, engineers, architects, people from all around the world that have ended up just getting consumed by this? Because realistically, we're never ever going to know the exact answer. But imagine you're one of these people that are like, you just need to understand it because you're an engineer and you know it's part of your kind of field anyway. But then you're just losing sleep at night, but you're never really going to get an answer. You can kind of come to a hypothesis, whatever it's called, but you're never going to get a definite answer.
He labors over it obsessively for years,
Yeah, I can
until he's
imagine.
finally ready to share it with Egyptologists. Most of them ignore him. He's an outsider, and it's a field notorious for gatekeeping.
French guy who knows nothing. Because there is no evidence.
But his theory has since
Why are the Egyptians actually so against us knowing? Like, why do they try and cover it up? Because if that was in, like, say if I was running Egypt, I'd want to know. Is it just something they're told? Just stay clear of that.
gain traction, because Odon has put himself into the shoes of Emeunu, thinking through every last detail. His theory could even explain how the heaviest granite beams might have been moved without needing to be hauled by 600 workers. Here's a concise version. Emeunu does use an external ramp for the first part of the pyramid, up to around 60 meters. But he doesn't just build a basic ramp made of rubble. No, his ramp is made of limestone. The limestone blocks that will later compose the upper layers of the pyramid. That would explain why we haven't found any remains of a ramp around the pyramid. They're right there, in front of us. The short external ramp is used to build the widest, lower levels of the pyramid. It's also used to haul the heavy granite beams that compose the king's chamber. But hundreds of workers hauling a 50-ton block in a small space is logistically challenging. So Odon believes Emeunu used the long 46-meter corridor, the Grand Gallery, as an ingenious counterweight system. It would have been built opposite the external ramp, and its size and slope would be leveraged with counterweights that would assist workers in getting the granite up to the king's chamber.
Oh, shit.
The Grand Gallery is a weird space in the Great Pyramid. It has details that puzzled archaeologists for a long time, like why it's so tall, so narrow, and why it has stone benches running along the inside.
Yeah, that sounds
Odon
about
believes
right
the
then,
Grand
doesn't it?
Gallery helps move impossibly heavy stones by functioning like a railroad track.
But surely after a certain amount of stones, that's going to get massively cut down. Because if that rock's just going up and down the sides, they would surely be a lot shorter.
The stone benches are actually the rails for carts on wooden rollers.
Oh, fuck.
Remember,
I
no
speak too
wheels.
soon.
Essentially, a huge granite block at the bottom of the external ramp would be attached with a rope to a trolley car loaded up with heavy blocks at the top of the Grand Gallery. When the trolley car is rolled down the Grand Gallery, the heavy granite block would be pulled up the ramp. There's even evidence of scuffing from the repeated impact of something heavy in the Grand Gallery,
Fairs.
so it's a possible explanation of what this unique corridor was used for. Once the heavy granite beams are in place, the external ramp has served its purpose. Now, the pyramid is too tall for it to be practical, so the builders switch things up.
Build the
They
rest up.
dismantle the external ramp and use its blocks to start building the rest of the pyramid from the inside out, with an internal ramp, kind of like the driveway spiraling up inside a parking garage.
Straight away, my question is, how are they getting the blocks around the corners? And also, if there was an internal ramp, wouldn't we be able to still see it? Unless obviously they just block it up, but I want to know the answers. I'm hoping, after death, you can kind of go back to certain points in life and just see what actually happened. Because imagine when you die, you just don't get to know the answers to all this stuff.
The second ramp would have been built from the bottom up, with an incline of about 7%. It would go straight up until it hits one of the pyramid sides, where it would make a sharp left continue up another side at the same incline. The ramp continues zigzagging up the pyramid, with the flights of the ramp getting shorter as the pyramid narrows. From the bottom to the top, the internal ramp is over 1 kilometer long. Moving heavy blocks up an incline is manageable, especially if you're using a sled
I was kind of expecting the ramp to be a lot narrower.
over smooth limestone. But each time the ramp turns a corner, the workers have the enormously difficult task of pivoting the heavy stones.
Yep.
Odon calculates the ramp had to be less than 3 meters wide.
At this point, am I just an engineer? I'm asking all these questions before he's got to them. So, honestly, if someone wants to give me like an engineering degree or something like that, like, sign me up. I'll teach everyone this shit.
And the workers would have needed somewhere to stand to turn the block. So he proposes that at the end of each flight of the ramp, there must have been a big space left open for the workers to turn the block, possibly with the help of wooden levers or cranes. The empty spaces would also be a nice place for the workers to catch their breath. And there's actually evidence of one of these spaces. There's a previously unexplained
I can't imagine that Corfu person, was allowing them to have breaks when they got to those corners. I can imagine what those corners were actually made for was for his kind of guards to just carry on, just whipping the fuck out of them.
notch that corresponds to Odon's predictions for what the spaces would look like. About
Has no
83
one-
meters up the
Sorry to interrupt again, but has no one just gone in there? If the gap's there, how come they haven't just gone in?
pyramid. Odon's theories about the Grand Gallery and the internal ramp offer viable solutions to two of the pyramid's biggest mysteries: how 2-ton blocks were lifted so high, and how 50-ton beams were moved without the space for the hundreds of workers needed to haul them. But if he's right, the ramp's design would have been highly complex. Its path would have to be designed with great care to avoid intersecting with any passageways or chambers within the pyramid. Critics of his theory are either unconvinced that its construction is supported by archaeological evidence, or wave off the internal ramp as overcomplicated. Many suggest the external ramp theory is likelier because it's simpler, but ancient Egyptian workmanship exhibits extraordinarily high levels of precision in
So far, I'm believing the internal ramp a little bit more than the external. Like, that, to me, makes the most sense so far.
so many aspects. Why not also apply this ability to a highly sophisticated ramp design? And also, why not entertain an even more sophisticated theory for how they built the pyramids?
Hard mode. Ooh, the
In 2020
water elevator theory. This could be interesting.
2024, a flurry of newspaper articles announced that the mystery of the pyramids was finally solved, thanks to brand new archaeological evidence. As it turns out, the Nile might just be the key to the mystery of how the pyramids were built. Nowadays, the Giza Plateau lies in an arid strip of the Sahara Desert, kilometers away from the lush banks of the Nile. But during the time that the pyramids were built, the landscape may have looked very different. A 2024 study combined radar satellite imagery with deep soil coring techniques. This way it identified what appears to be a long-lost branch of the Nile flowing alongside the majority.
If they're going to try and tell me now that the water flow from the River Nile helped to push the 50-ton rocks, stone, up 130 feet, I'm probably going to give them one of them. Tell them to piss off.
of the pyramids.
Because I've saw what happens when you throw a pebble into water.
The pyramid builders probably used this branch to move heavy stones straight to the pyramid base, instead of dragging them all the way from distant quarries. More than plausible that the builders used the Niles to transport the blocks horizontally.
Oh yeah, that's another good question actually. All these stones and rocks, they wouldn't have just been next to the pyramid. Like, it's not like they're carving this into existing rock. They're transporting 2.3 million 50-ton, 10-ton, whatever the figure was, pieces of rock that has been perfectly engineered, cut, sliced to the millimetre. They're transporting that from God knows where. So you're doing that in 20 years.
But what about vertically? Another peer-reviewed study from 2024 offers a fascinating theory. It proposes a radical and controversial idea. The ancient Egyptians might have used hydraulic power to raise heavy stones. In other words, a water-powered elevator. The idea of such an elevator is not new, but for a long time, credentialed Egyptologists considered such theories fringe and unscientific, just speculations cooked up by pyramidians. They might sound cool, but there was zero evidence to actually support them. Until, perhaps, now. The researchers, including hydrologists, mechanical engineers, and geographers, found evidence that the earliest Egyptian pyramid could have been built using a floating wooden elevator capable of raising heavy stones with far less human labor. The water elevator would have worked something like this. Rainfall and floodwater would be collected into a nearby structure that functions as a dam. A system of underground conduits guides that water into a shaft running from underneath the pyramid up through its central axis, kind of like a volcano. This internal shaft is where all the upward movement is generated. Within the shaft, floating on the water's surface, is a heavy wooden platform, which workers would load up with heavy stones from the ground level. Then they'd open and close valves near the bottom of the shaft, which would feed in or...
What, so these people that are just chilling under the water have got ancient Egypt scuba gear, have they?
Drain out the water. Manipulating the water levels in this way would raise and lower the wooden platform like an elevator. It could raise the platform to heights of at least 17 meters. Then workers would unload the stones and construct the pyramid from the inside out. The study's lead author claims his theories could also help explain why later ones aren't as large as the Great Pyramid. As the climate dried out of the region over time, builders couldn't have captured enough water for a hydraulic lift system. They'd have to rely on human strength to lift heavy stones. So does this theory hold water? Experts are mostly skeptical. Zahi Hawass.
Yeah, I don't believe that one at all. Out of those three so far, which one do you think is the most likely? Because I'm going to say the middle one. Well, this one that we're on now. This seems like a load of shit. You're relying too heavily on nature and water flow to bring heavy rocks up. 2.3 million rocks up, just keep going off water levels. You only have to chuck a fucking small pebble in water and it just sinks.
A leading figure in Egyptology says the theory is completely wrong. The pyramid in the study is not only smaller than Khufu's Great Pyramid, but differs structurally and was built of far lighter stones. So if Khufu's pyramid were built with some kind of water elevator, it would have to be bigger and perhaps more complex. So far, no comparable shaft is known to exist in the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, that one's a lot of bollocks.
Ramps, however, are found all over archaeological excavations of ancient Egypt. So the most common theories continue to put forward some sort of ramp as the dominant construction model. There are other potentially viable scientific theories that try to solve pieces of this puzzle. One expert we spoke with suggests multiple smaller ramps from all sides to cut down on construction time. But to this day, there is still no generally accepted theory for how they did it. In any case, it's good to be wary of all the claims coming out about finally solving the mystery. Everyone wants to be the one to definitively figure it out.
The thing is though, you're never gonna know, are you? Like, realistically, you are never ever gonna find out for 100% certain that that's how they did it, because these are times where they probably had much different technology to us. They was actually very advanced and very clever people. But where's that translation between them and us been lost? You know, why did they not write a manuscript on how to do it? Well, I suppose because Khufu guy didn't want the anyone else building them. But actually no, because there are others built around the world and they're all in line with each other as well.
Pyramid is the last of the 7 wonders of the world we have left. It's so old, even Cleopatra considered it ancient. But even though they've been around thousands of years, it's actually very strange we haven't found any blueprints for the pyramids. The ancient Egyptians were obsessive documenters. We have their tax records, their love poems, their receipts for donkey feed purchases from 4,000 years ago. But papyri with plans for the pyramids have never been found.
Or they've been found and been destroyed. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Plans were lost, hidden, or intentionally destroyed, we don't know. But what we do know, and what science might be at the brink of confirming, is already very incredible. In 2017, scientists discovered a mysterious void in the Great Pyramid using cutting-edge particle physics. Researchers have yet to access these spaces. Some archaeologists believe the big void isn't so mysterious, that it's probably just structural, built as stress-relieving spaces so the inner chambers wouldn't collapse. Some believe it helped refine Udon's theory of the Grand Gallery counterweight system.
In this whole pyramid, that's how big, these are the only walkways and places that you can go through. Like, that seems like a lot of a waste of space, doesn't it, really? To me, I get he wants to do the biggest place ever, but why didn't he incorporate more into that
system? Others, including Egypt's top archaeologist, Zahi Hawass, suggest the void might be Khufu's real burial chamber. Because that's the other great unsolved mystery of the pyramids. Khufu's mummy and all of his treasures have never been found. Whatever it's for.
So they're telling us that, oh yeah, these are his burial chambers, this is where this is at, this is where that's at, and they haven't actually found any evidence of him even being there.
The big void reveals there's a lot more investigation needed to fully understand the Great Pyramid.
Well, I don't know. I'm still concerned. I'm confused, I mean. If anything, that has probably confused me more. I think the best option, as I say, is the middle one of where they did the internal ramp. But then, once again, surely someone would have found that internal ramp. Because people have been going in there. I don't know. Maybe I might do some more on this. Maybe I might watch some more of these videos so we can kind of try and come to a conclusion together. Because I'm still completely lost. My only conclusion as a conspiracy theorist is that aliens come down, zapped that shit and built that up for Egypt. So yeah. But yeah, that is everything from this video. So if you've enjoyed the video, drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I will see you on the next one. See you later.